Hi, my name is Vidas Metalis, and in this video I will show you how to prepare your data for Portfolio Slicer application. After you downloaded Portfolio Slicer from the website and zipped the file, you will have two subfolders, Portfolio Slicer and Portfolio Slicer Demo. Portfolio Slicer, that's the area, that's a subfolder where actually you should enter all your data, specifically everything what is related to your investments, what you're planning to track. So the first thing what you will do is you enter in your symbol Yahoo file, you will enter the symbols or stocks that you traded. Probably you want to start with the one portfolio, one account. You pick something that you have some account that has just very few transactions, you enter information about that. When you're happy with the results, when you see what Portfolio Slicer can do, what reports you can see, you then want to add more information, and then you'll see more results back. The reason I'm saying that because entering source data, it's hardest step that you'll have to do in Portfolio Slicer application. To actually prepare all the correct information, it takes time. In my case, for example, I got the 3 or 5 actually years information of my bank statements, and I went through all the bank statements and I entered that information. It took days, so it's really time-consuming job. So I would say start slow. So pick one account. We'll put everything in one portfolio like here, and hopefully you'll have not many stocks, so you'll enter whatever you bought in your investments. So we'll pick here a couple stocks: Microsoft, Walmart, PFE, and that's enough for now. So 3 stocks we enter here in symbol Yahoo text file. And the next step is in Get Quotes Yahoo PS1 file. You open it another editor, and here you enter the year that you want to start you're tracking your investments. If now it's May 2012, you want to go back 3 years, you can start from 2008, for example. So it's going to be 2008 December 27. Or you can leave if it was 2007. That's okay. If you'll extract extra year of the quotes, it's not a big deal. So we'll start from 2007 as it was December. So after you updated symbol Yahoo file and Get Quotes file, you click on refresh batch file, refresh prices batch file, and this will go to Yahoo website and will get the quotes. So getting the quotes is one piece of source information that you need for Portfolio Slicer application. That's it. Your quotes file is ready here. The actually piece where you'll spend most of your time preparing source data going to be in Portfolio Slicer-SRC XLSX. This is a spreadsheet. It's a separate workbook that has many spreadsheets where you will enter your data about your investments. These are going to be your transactions, it's going to be your accounts, your portfolios, and symbols, and extra information. The more information you enter, the more accurate information you enter, the easier, the more information you can get back out of the Portfolio Slicer. So I will go table by table. Each table is, as you can see, in a separate sheet. I'll go table by table of what you have to enter in for each table and how would you do that. Most of these tables are not complicated, and you can do them very quickly, except probably trans table. That's the biggest table. That's where you enter all your transactions, and we'll go through trans table, transaction table, the last one. So let's start with the dates table. So dates table is the it's table that's supposed to contain all dates from the start of the period which you're supposed to track your investments to the end of the current year. And usually at the end of the current year, you'll add another year of information for the next year and so on. So this table you'll have to update once a year. Currently, the way it's done is that all the blue, dark blue columns, you don't have to enter them. They all calculated. So for date table, really what you have to enter is the actual date. The way it's set up, if you look at the formula, is in the first cell or A2 cell, you have a date, and all the other cells are just +1. So it means it's going to go to the next date. So if we want to start from 2007, we just enter here 12, 31, 2007, and you just now updated all the dates down from 2007 to the last one. What happens here, because we moved everything 1 year ahead, we can delete all the dates for year 2013. So that's what we're gonna do right now. We're gonna go 2013 and we'll delete it. Simply I selected this records, right mouse click and delete. So you have a table right now which starts from 2007 December 31, it goes to the end of 2012. This table is done. Very simple. It has one extra field that you can enter. It's exclude flag. For whatever reasons you want to exclude the specific date not to be in your report, if you put it 1 in there, that date will not be in your reports. There will be different reasons for you, but most of you probably will not use that feature, so you don't need to know. Portfolio. Portfolio is most likely it's going to be account per or family members account. That's what's going to be in your portfolio. You might have multiple portfolios, and these portfolios have extra attributes. So here is just critical information for you. You want to have a short name for portfolio, and then groups, tax, and portfolio currency. These are just kind of a grouping attributes that lets you later see information about portfolio in a grouped way. Very simply to enter that, you just enter whatever you want. You just enter your name, for example, Vidas, and you can enter bank information. For here, you enter your wife's name and Diana TD, for example, and so on. And this will help you to, I'll set up it back. It will help you to track each account separately. You will always be able to see all your portfolios, the summary of all portfolios in all the reports. But portfolios also let you see independently data. So for example, per account data, so you can track easier and make sure that the results that you're getting here matching exactly results from your bank or investment company. Transactions will go later. So the next table is transaction type. This is table that it's already prepared for you. You might not need to enter in there, except if you have a certain transactions transaction types that I haven't covered here in this table. It's very easy to enter. You enter whatever you want, just call transaction type any way you want. You can rename it here any way you want. If you rename it here, you have to just use that new name transaction type in your transactions table. That's all where it's used. And we have a transaction group. It's just a grouping of transactions. We have a description, which is just longer name of what this transaction does. And then we have a set of the flag and sign attributes. These are very important attributes that actually tells Portfolio Slicer how it should actually treat this transaction. Ignore quantity flag, for example, lets you choose if for specific transaction when you enter, if you wanna ignore the quantity you entered. So I'll go back quickly to transaction table, and here is a dividend transaction. So you enter transaction type dividend here. And in this case, what you see here, it's a dividend where we have 160 shares, which we have for Microsoft. They paid $32 in transaction in total dividends. So really what happens, this transaction quantity, it's really not important. You want to ignore it. It's not like 160 shares, each of them pay $32. It's totally you get paid. So the same for deposit, for example. You want to ignore this statement, which is not important for you, how many quantities when you deposited cash was. Where quantity is important, where you're buying shares. So here is 160. This type of transaction has it tells you how many shares you bought. So if we look at the dividend here, this is transaction, it says ignore quantity flag to 1. So that means we're ignoring quantity. We don't want to know how many shares really pay that amount. What important is to us is that we in totally got $32. it depends. If your institution, if your banking institution actually pays and says, you got 130 shares and paid 30 cents each, then you would want to set this to 0. And this way, then we would multiply that quantity by amount paid, and it would be amount per share, not the total amount. So this is one of the fields that specifies quantity. Quantity sign means how this transaction is used when you're calculating number of shares you currently hold. Some of the shares, when you're buying, they are actually increasing, your quantity is increasing, so it's 1. Some of the shares are decreasing, that means it's -1. When you split shares, one quantity goes down. And for some transactions, does not affect quantity of the existing shares at all. For example, when you have a dividends, they do not affect existing quantity. So it's really that these fields has a lot of power to configure how would you treat your transactions. Cash transaction sign tells you how this transaction affects cash amount that you have in your portfolio. So some of the transactions, when you buy share, that means your cash amount will be reduced. Some of transactions, when you're selling shares, your cash balance in your account will be increased, and some of them will not have any impact. When you're splitting shares, there is no impact to the existing cash balance to your account. Book value sign, when you buy something, again, this might increase book value, this might decrease book value, or when you have a 0, it means it doesn't have any effect on the book value. Dividend flag, we want to track certain transactions to be if it's a dividend or not dividend. This is because we have a special reports where we report how much your specific symbol had the capital gains, plus how much total dividends or distributions were paid by the symbol. So we have a full picture how good the symbol is doing. And deposit flag, again, there is a 0 and 1 flag. 1 means that this type of transaction is deposit. You want to sometimes separate what's really deposit versus what is just transfer between accounts. You want to know where this flag is used, for example, when we report how many deposits every month or every year you did, so you can, what is your, how much you save every year. So this is a transaction type table, which is very important for all these attributes which I just mentioned, and most likely you might not have to edit and enter any new transactions, but you're welcome. If you understand what these flags do, or these symbols do, just follow the example, for example, of other transaction type. Symbol. This is a main table that lists the shares that you're buying, company shares. It's called symbol here, it could be called ticker or company or whatever else, but in your investments you might have a stock shares, you might have a ETFs, you might have a mutual funds. All of that information should come into this table. The primary information what we want here is that symbol, and that symbol should match Yahoo Financial website symbol. It's very important because that's how we linked everything together. So if in Yahoo Financial website it says VNQ, it has to be here VNQ. We have one very special symbol. This is star space cash. This is a symbol which tracks your current cash balance in your portfolio. You have to keep it like that. You cannot rename it because it's used in some of the formula definitions later. Each symbol then have a lot of attributes. Most of these attributes are directly on this table. So we have allocation, allocation 2, allocation 3 that lets you group what, where to allocate the symbol when you want to see your total investment by allocation, for example. We have a categories, symbol sector, symbol industry. You really can enter here anything you want. It's just a grouping or that lets you split your investments by some of the attributes. We have a couple more attributes here which says sector defined and region defined. These are calculated attributes, and what they do really, they go to another tables. We have a symbol sector table and we have a symbol country table. So these two tables that lets you actually define your symbol split with, when it's split to multiple records. So when we're talking about symbol del, it doesn't really have a split when we're talking about sector. Everything is in technology. But when we have a DS sector, DS symbol, this symbol is split because some part of it, like 3.6%, is in basic materials sector. Communication services have 4%. So this is actually ETF. It's a lot of companies. So what you can do here in symbol sector table, you can specify what is percentage of each sector that the symbol has. And the requirement is that some of these percentages for specific symbol have to add up to 100. It's a very important requirement. If you don't care about this type of the reports where you want to see everything by sector exactly, you can simply ignore and not enter anything into this table. That means that few reports will not work. I think just one report will not work. This type of the split is by one report. You can always come back and enter this information later when you will want to. Sector sensitivity has just sector map to sensitivity. Again, just one report is used for that. Symbol country is symbol split by country, and again, certain stocks might span multiple countries. So that's why you have a separate table where you can enter that information. So it's one to many. One symbol can have multiple countries. Symbol areas. It's a table that we do not load directly in Portfolio Slicer application, but it could be very helpful when you want to quickly add a lot of transactions. What happens the way I add the transactions when from my bank, I actually scan them or get some information from their existing PDF files they have online, and I formatted them in Excel spreadsheet. And they do not use symbols. The bank statements do not produce everything in symbols. They have actually names. So when you enter transactions, in where you see transaction symbol name field, here you will enter, you don't have to enter symbol. You can enter name or anything, but you have to make sure that that name is specified here in symbol alias table, LU symbol table. LU means lookup. So LU symbol alias. What it means is basically if you enter here information about symbol alias and you then map that the symbol alias goes to the symbol, it's actually easier for you than in transaction table where you will be entering. It automatically pick up for you here in this field actual symbol for that transaction. So you have to make sure that this table, this column that is calculated, it's always it has some value here. That means you have a proper relationship between symbol and symbol aliases. So this is one of the tables. Currency. The currency is not really right now properly implemented in our in this initial release. It's gonna be enhanced later depending on the demand. What it lets you, it's in my case, for example, I keep Canadian portfolio and I have a US portfolio, and I have a certain stocks in US stocks in Canadian portfolio because that's a tax requirement here the way it is done, or it's a bank limitation. So currently everything what you enter you see in the currency that you entered. Later you will have an option to just switch currency on the fly and see everything in your current currency or different currency, because it could be important information. Currency method not implemented right now in our system. It's just prepared for the future release. And the rest of the report tables and XIR table, report calculation, these are just kind of a dummy table, so-called. Here for these tables, we have just one record, which is dummy record, where we'll create calculated measures which will be used to group. We'll have a report symbol, for example, will have a calculated measures that are used usually in symbol reporting. Report sales are calculated measures for your sales and holding and so on. XIR, came from the Excel, has a financial function XIR, XIRR, which is actually calculating your rate of return for your investments, annualized rate of return. We have a partially implemented that functionality in our system. Some of it disabled, just was disabled before release. We found some issues with the current release of Powerpivot. It's going to be used and enhanced much more in the later release of Portfolio Slicer. So these are the main tables, and now we have to go back to our main table, which is transaction. So transaction table, it's a main table which requires most of your time to enter information. What happens here is you enter information about all of your transaction. Currently, you have to manually enter all your buys, deposits, your dividends, distributions, sells, everything what you can, even interest paid to your account. The more you'll enter, the more accurate you'll enter, the better picture you'll have how your investments are doing. In our case, when we tested this, we matched cent to cent for 5 years. We can match exactly bank statements because we enter all bank transactions. In your case, you want to start slowly and then go to the, when you'll pick that you're comfortable doing 3 years or 5 years, you enter that information, but it's going to be time consuming. So start slow, and the entering is very simple. I go here into the next line. I'll say for his portfolio, first of all, you have to have cash in your account to have to buy something. So we'll say 2007, 12/31. We'll do another deposit, start cash, and we'll deposit $10,000, for example, and we'll say it's USD. There is no price. So we just enter information. You don't have an exchange rate, so you don't have to worry about that. When you enter exchange rate, what really you are looking for, if you're buying, for example, US stocks into Canadian account, what you're looking there, that after exchange rate, that total calculated amount should match whatever is in your bank statement. So what you should know that. So now we'll go and we enter one more transaction. We enter that in 2008 or 1 or 5, for example, we buy Walmart. And I don't know what the price was then, but we'll buy, let's say, 100 shares, and transaction price, let's say, we're guessing what was the price, $40 then, USD. So total amount which was subtracted amount was $4,000, and we probably paid some fee for that as well. We can enter here. So total amount deducted from our cash balance was $4,099. So we enter one transaction. We might enter all related dividends, or you might enter dividends very late after you enter all the buys and sells. So for now, let's say we enter just one transaction. It's very simple to enter as you see this information, but because you have a lot of these transactions, all the dividends and everything, it will be time consuming. Also, whenever you buy something, you have to make sure that you have a cash in your account. The way I like to do is that if I start entering everything in 2008, I go to my bank statement and I check what was the cash deposits then, and I might even enter all the transactions that in 2007, 12/31, I bought this, the extra, these type of shares which I held at the end of the year. So this way, when I start tracking in 2008, that's the first full year I'm tracking, I have information about all the investments from the day first of the year. So we enter this information, that's it, we click on save, and we kind of prepared we have to make sure that symbol is what Walmart is here. Oh yeah, we already left. I left the Walmart here as a symbol here. What you will do here, whenever you'll have a symbols in this table, you'll enter your own symbols and you specify attributes, or you can leave some of them just empty for now and deal with this later. It shouldn't be a big deal. So we enter Walmart transactions. Okay, so we click save and we close this Portfolio Slicer -SRC workbook, and now we go to Portfolio Slicer. In separate video, I already show you how to configure your Portfolio Slicer to point to correct database on your specific location after you installed. To point to correct workbook. So now we're waiting till Portfolio Slicer opens, and we'll look at the data here. The last updated was May 21st, and we have an account portfolio, which cash value this and equity value this. And if we look at the holdings for this account, Microsoft. So if you remember when we entered, we looked at the transactions in our transaction table, we saw that there was a sample transaction for Microsoft buy. Now we added Walmart transaction, what we bought a Walmart, but we don't see it here right now. What we have to do is to refresh Portfolio Slicer application, and that's going to be done in Powerpivot window. So we click on Powerpivot, click on Powerpivot window. When it opens, we'll just say refresh all. What this will do is refresh, it will get all the quotes that we, from the quotes.txt file we generated at the start of this video, and it will also read now all the transactions from the trans table and all the other tables which we had in this trans table. So when we click close here and we click close here, we'll look at the holdings, nothing changed. Because what we did here, we just updated Powerpivot database with the data from the quotes file and SRC file. We haven't told our reports that there is a new data. We have to do this by clicking on any report and saying refresh. So when we click a refresh here, we now going into Powerpivot database. Each report goes into Powerpivot database and recalculates what are the holdings, what are the allocation distributions, what are the cash value in the account, and everything else. So we should see in a second, after all the refreshes are done, that on top of the MSFT, we also will have now WMT stock in our holdings. It takes time to do the refresh, even because it's a lot of reports you have here, and each of this cell is calculated on the fly. So as you see, we bought the 100 shares of Walmart when we entered in January 5th, and now you see that book value was for $40.10, and the 10 cents probably is the $9.99 split between shares, and then we have a book value hold, and then we can see what is the current value, and all the reports right now include that value which we deposited, what's the equity value, and whatever we buy. All the reports right now include information about the Walmart. And this could be interactive process where you go back and now enter other buys you had in your accounts, and then you come back to this Portfolio Slicer workbook and refresh it, and you get updated data. And we have a bank statement here. It's kind of a report that might help you to see your transactions. So when you click on any year, for example 2008, and first, this is when we bought Walmart. So this is all transactions. So you can see what were transactions in 2008 when we clicked on here, we removed filter. So these are all all transactions 2008, and it shows you actually buy dividends. And on the side here, you see all the holdings at the end of the period. So at the end of 2008, you see these type of the equities you had, and this is the price. I used this report to match exactly banking statements with Portfolio Slicer database month by month. When I enter information, I made sure I went one by one month, and they match cent to cent that this is exactly what I have. So this is kind of a report that might help you. So as you saw right now, how you do that, let's quickly do one more. We'll add one more transactions. We go into Portfolio Slicer application and click on symbol Yahoo, and we'll say we bought FB. That's a Facebook, which was just released, I think a week ago or something. So for symbol -Yahoo into this flat file we entered, and we got the Facebook stocks. We just updated quotes file, and you can easily check that. It's probably here we have a Facebook, as you can see, quotes now included. Perfect. And then we can go to portfolio slicer symbol, and we can enter here FB. We'll say FB, Facebook, and US broad, and we don't even have to enter all information here. If we leave it USD, you'll see that it shows you no, it's not defined sector, not defined region, and it's equity. So one information sum we know we entered, and we'll ignore for now that, but we'll know that these reports will not be full in this case, and I'll show you which reports. So we just entered Facebook information in the symbol type. As we'll use, we can enter here in the alias that Facebook means FB. So from now we can reference it as a Facebook. And into his 2012 or 5, whatever it was, 18, we buy FB, and quantity we buy, what was the stock price? $38. So we had, let's say 100 shares for $38 USD. So that's all transaction we entered, and we check the record, check OK. If something is missing, it will tell you, it might tell you that portfolio is incorrectly entered or the symbol is incorrectly entered. So it's $3,800 totally we paid for Facebook. We click save on here, and now we can go back to portfolio slicer application. We go back to Powerpivot window, and we do refresh all, and we let the portfolio slicer refresh its data. Again, it's done. So we click close and close that Powerpivot window, and now we go back to holdings and we click refresh. And again, what happens, we go into Powerpivot database, which we just updated in previous step, and we now refresh all the reports, and it takes some time to calculate that. I want to point what happens during this specifically refresh. For each cell that you see on the screen in every report, we go and calculate on the fly what is the value for that cell. There are a lot of calculation, because in a source database all we have is we have a transaction list, and we have quotes for these transactions. So really what happens is that when we calculate what we hold in 100 shares, we go through all the transactions, we add up, because it could be sales, and you could buy, you sell the same Facebook or some other stocks, and we calculate that at the end, at current time, we have 100 shares of Facebook. And then we calculate the same way book price, then we calculate book value, we calculate price hold, we calculate how many, based on how many quantities we hold, we calculate what is the current equity value. For cash value, we actually go and we subtract all the buys, and we add all the sells, all the cash amounts, and we calculate all of that on the fly. So there are a lot of transactions happening, and Powerpivot does the magic there. It works really fast. It's just that you have so many reports them in the screen. That's why it takes some time. But it's really fast. All these things are calculated on the fly. There are no pre-calculations. And now you see that we just we added Facebook to our investments, and now you can suddenly, you can start, see how this transaction affects you, and you have holdings, you have now your growth for the current month, you lost some money, and you see daily equity value changes. Now that includes the fact that you hold Facebook, and it recalculates how much it changed daily, and now you can look at your top stocks for the today, and you see that bottom stocks, usually there are 8 stocks, so when you have more of them, you see more meaningful report, but now your bottom and top stocks are the same things. So that's how you enter your source data, and it's a lot of interactive process. As you say, you go to Portfolio Slicer, into that workbook, you enter SRC workbook, you enter information, and you come back and refresh in Portfolio Slicer workbook, and you see the results, which you can always check against bank statement report we have. I hope you will start entering that information slowly, and then when you go through the reports and see the power of the reports that Portfolio Slicer produces, you'll get more kind of reasons to enter correct information, more precise information, including all the dividends and all the distributions that then you can easily track. The transaction types, you can enter almost anything, and I managed to very easily actually to track even notion distributions, where company announced notion distribution where really they say that they paid you money, but they don't really pay money, but they adjust the price that you bought your investments with. Even these things can be done in Portfolio Slicer very easily, and I'll hope you'll realize that this is flexible and very powerful workbook to track your investments. Okay, thank you very much for watching it. Bye.